Hello, and welcome back to Cosmic Conversations, your source for expansive discussions and timeless wisdom to help you navigate the experience that is wildly spiritual and deeply cosmic of being a human being on planet Earth. My name is Julia Phoenix, and I've got to find a way to not mess up that intro. I keep switching the words around. I don't know if you guys have noticed. Maybe I need to put it in writing and just hang it in a post it or something on my computer, but hopefully you don't care too much. I'm really excited about today's topic, which is feminine business. Now, if you've been integrated into some of the circles that I've been integrated into, the coaching industry online in particular, and the healing industry on social media through the past several years, you will have heard these buzzwords kind of together a lot, and you will have witnessed that there was a really big industry trend towards this kind of theme, feminine business. How do we bring more of the feminine into business? And I believe there is a tremendous reason for that that makes perfect sense, right? More people are starting their own businesses than I've ever seen in my life. I don't have statistics to back this up, but I have a sense that it's kind of more than ever before, particularly since 2020. More women are stepping up to offer their medicine and creating businesses to share their gifts with the world, which is something that deeply, deeply excites me personally. And I think more star seeds and in general, sort of spiritually inclined individuals are starting their own businesses. And I think that the reason for that is that service is a huge component of the journey. And when you reach a certain place, you need a vehicle for that service, and you need that service to sort of feed back into you, right? In the form of resources. And so we create spiritual businesses, right? We become spiritual entrepreneurs. Most people that I know in my life that are friends are spiritual entrepreneurs. And most structures of business, most paradigms around business have been deeply out of balance when it comes to the distorted masculine in the lead. There hasn't been a lot of space for the feminine energetics inside of business. It wasn't taught for a very long time. It wasn't included in the conversation. And that is changing, and I find that really, really beautiful. However, I do want to say here that some of you may have clicked on this and kind of felt like, ugh, is this going to be another person telling me that all I have to do is lie in the bathtub and think about a business, and then I'll be able to create a profitable and successful business? Or all I have to do is just like have more orgasms, and then magically this business will appear, because this is a distortion in the teaching that has also been present in my industry, the coaching and healing industry online, as this conversation has gained popularity. And a lot of people are really sick of that. So, what I want to speak into today is hopefully a balanced perspective, a grounded perspective on the importance of feminine energetics in business, on the role of the feminine in business, and on how you can bring more of that feminine energy into your business. Because your business, in my opinion, if you're a spiritual person, which I don't even know what that is. I mean, everyone is spiritual, right? But if you are connected, right, to life beyond third dimensional constructs, uh, it's going to be important. It's going to be important for you. So, when I'm speaking about the feminine in business, I am not speaking about having a business that is all you and your feminine energy all the fucking time. I want to be really clear about that because it actually doesn't work that way. Maybe some of you found that out in the midst of this whole craze where, you just get to, again, like, lie in the bathtub and let the money come to you. There is a really important element of action, planning, and structure. It's that masculine energetic that is such a critical component to what we're creating in our spiritual business. But the truth is, a lot of people say that the masculine leads. I think that that can be true in some senses. It certainly leads when it comes to action. But I firmly believe that in many senses, in many very important senses, it is actually the feminine who leads. And that is who is in charge in my particular business. It was not always that way. I have been in the online healing world as a business owner since 2015. And I've gone through a lot of different phases in my own process, right? Where these more feminine elements of creativity and intuition, right, have been more present and really, once again, have kind of led the experience more. And I've gone through phases where that masculine energy has really taken over, and it's taken over in some ways during some periods for me in ways that were, I don't know if I want to say damaging, just really misaligned, that caused a lot of burnout, a lot of suffering for me, and also not great results. So it's like, I've done it both ways, so you don't have to. And I can really speak into this because it's a process of realignment that I've been engaged in for a long time and that I continue to be in relationship with. So, once again, the feminine is the energy that leads, meaning she has the creative passion, the intuitive knowing, the connection to what is meant to come through you. She has the material, right? The raw material of what you are meant to bring forward. And when we are in the feminine energy that a lot of people like to talk about a lot, which is this receptive, open, spacious energy, that creativity, which is also feminine, can come through. That inspiration can come through. It does not come from your mind. Nothing that I have created that has been deeply fulfilling and rich and beautiful on all levels, right? And that has fed resources back into me has come from me sitting down and figuring out what makes sense to offer and letting that lead. When I have done it that way, and I have, where it's like, okay, and I've had coaches that have taught this, right? Figure out how much money you want to make, and then figure out a structure of what could give you that, right? So if I want to make a 30K month, this is what I need to price my mastermind. This is who how many people I need to have in it. And what do my people want? Okay, let's look at the data. Let's look at the information. My people want X, Y, or Z for me. So that's what I'm going to offer. What name makes sense, right? So it's all very mental. And then we just go, you know, we go and we go. And then we think, why is this not working? You know, why does this feel so hard? Why does it feel forced? Why does it feel like I'm pushing against something? And it's because you are. You're pushing against the energy that is actually trying to come through you in your business, that's trying to be in relationship with you. You've let your mind and your ego and your will totally take control and drive the bus all the way away from her. You will at some point crash if you do that. Can you make money doing it that way? Sure. Once again, it will not be fulfilling and it will not be sustainable, particularly if you have a more feminine energetic system. It will not be fulfilling. It will not be sustainable, right? And so what is the alternative? Like I said, it's not about getting rid of the frameworks. It's not about not crunching the numbers or not having a plan. These are things that are foundational and essential for successful business, right? It is about that plan and that structure being fully in service to that feminine within you, to the energy that wants to come through your vessel and be transmitted to the collective. That is the order of things. The mind, which is masculine, and the action, which is masculine, the will, which is masculine, is in service and is devoted to that creative genius, that intuitive knowing in your body. It is in service to the feminine. That is the correct and natural balance. You'll know right away if what I'm saying applies to you and where you are out of balance, right? Where you are putting the cart before the horse, where you are not slowing down enough to really feel and hear the feminine. There's also a big component to this of where are you not allowing yourself to be nourished and supportive? Giving energetically is masculine. A lot of feminine oriented healers and business owners, spiritual entrepreneurs that I know are very into service, but it's to the point where there's a lot of giving and there's not a lot of receiving. That balance is just off. That's also a recipe for burnout, right? So sometimes this can look like receiving more money. Are you really open and available to receive more money? How are you going to receive more money? Like, are there even pathways for that? Are you allowing that in? Are you requiring that because you know that you deserve it? But sometimes it's not about those places. It's about where are you not allowing yourself to receive replenishment in your off time? Where are you not allowing yourself to receive support with the tasks that don't feel good for you, right? Or emotional support or energetic support, right? Allowing yourself to receive and prioritizing your relationships actually only makes your business stronger. Take it from me. I've had a really big struggle with receiving and accepting support throughout my life and certainly within my business. But wherever you're in a belief of I have to do it all myself, your feminine and masculine balance in business is off. It's just off, right? So the other key piece here that I want to highlight, and then I'm going to bring it into places where you can start to correct this imbalance and embody more of that feminine energy inside of your business, is relationships. Okay, the feminine is relationally oriented. I have said this for so many years that I believe business is all about relationships. You know, Ra and I were just having a conversation in the car yesterday, and we were talking about certain businesses actually in town here, our little town of Bandon, you know, and just sort of analyzing like the commerce here and the patterns that we see, right? It's a touristy type of town. So there's, you know, that's the biggest industry here. But I was really, you know, kind of debating with him a little bit about how important relationships and connection are in business. You know, and even products, right? Where there are, there's just a need for a product, right? Like the example he used, I think, was like, I need, if I need a new toilet, I'm just going to go get a new toilet. It doesn't have to be an experience where I'm like connected to anyone or feel connected to the environment at the store or anything like that. And I said, but if there are two stores that sell toilets and one of them, you know, you don't feel connected to anyone there, you don't feel connected to the environment, there's no sense of relationship between yourself and the owner or the employees. They don't work to establish that relationship with you or prioritize connecting with you in any kind of meaningful way as a human being. And the other store that sells toilets is one where, you know, there you can feel a warmth in the employees, and they ask your name and they remember you and they speak to you about, you know, how your day's going, and you know, like where are you gonna go, where are you gonna go to buy your toilet? It might be a weird example, but I think it's as good an example as any. um, and people are only getting wiser out there as consumers. You can't fake relationship and have that go well, especially not if you're, you know, a spiritual entrepreneur and you're working with people who have some awareness already and have some consciousness. If you are just nicey nice because you're trying to get the sale or because you're trying to please them, most of the time people can feel that and it actually repels them. It's more about, are you open and available to connect with the people in your world? Are you open and available to connect with yourself? Are you open and available to operate your business in a vibration of connection? Are you open and available to be in relationship with the people who are a part of what you're creating? And even if you have a product-based business, guess what? You know, people are buying those products. So yes, relationships still matter. Can you actually listen to and understand your audience, your potential clients? Can you receive them? Do you know how to navigate disharmony and conflict that comes up? The feminine is relationally oriented. She is about connection between two or more points of perspective. Masculine energy is more singular. Right? So, as a side note, developing your capacity for a relationship in general and your emotional availability within relationship in general, your capacity to move with conflict and tension in relationship, to resolve that, your capacity to show up in a meaningful way in connection with other human beings whilst remaining connected to yourself. Whew, highly recommend that you invest in that direction if you are a business owner, because it will serve you immensely. It is essential. That's why I weave it into all of the coaching and mentorship that I do with people around business. Okay. But another piece to this is that we're not just in relationship with, you know, our audience, our clients, our mentors, the technology we're using is another one, right? We've got to work on all of these relationships, but we're also in relationship with the consciousness of our business itself. A lot of people don't really understand this, but this is the way I see it. And I was a relationship coach for many years before I did DNA activation work. I still coach and teach a lot on relationships. It just makes sense. And it's just my experience to look at it this way. Your business has a consciousness that is separate from you. It is connected to you, but it has particular needs, a particular frequency that, once again, is connected to your frequency, but it is not your frequency. It has a lot of the answers for you that you are looking in your mind for, that you are paying people to tell you the answers to, that you are doom scrolling on Instagram and Facebook to try to find the answers to. Right? Your business has those answers. She will tell you. It will tell you. Not only does your business have its own consciousness that you get to get into relationship with, but so do your offers, individual offers, programs, right? This podcast itself has its own consciousness that I see as separate from my own. My job as a feminine creator and as a feminine business owner is to birth that consciousness through me. It has chosen me. I get to be open and receptive to it, and I get to be in relationship with it. Now, the human is also involved. You are also involved. So you also get to negotiate. Once again, it's a relationship just like any other. You get to negotiate. But I'm going to tell you, operating in this way, I would never go back to doing it any other way. Because before, I was stressed and burnt out a lot, and I felt very confused a lot. I was kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall, sort of like, I don't know, I get the image of like a toddler just like running in circles around the room. Just using so much life force energy to create. And when you get into alignment with a more feminine way of doing business, you're not using as much life force energy. You are just the vessel. And I feel so richly taken care of and provided for by my business, by the consciousness of my offers that I'm in direct relationship with. I feel so held. I don't have to try as hard. I don't really have to try much at all, although I do need to take action. I don't have to force. I don't have to push. Right? And so it's so much better. So if you are wanting to bring more of your authentic feminine energy into the equation of your business, reestablish harmony between the masculine and feminine energetics of your business, here are some pieces for you. Number one, create space and openness. So A lot of times, this is going to involve creating some space in your schedule. This can look differently for different people. I know that we all have different lives and, children, things like this. You can't always just decide you want to take a whole week in a cabin by yourself. If you can do that and that feels right for you, good on you. Go for it. But if you can't, where can you set aside time? And it's in this time where we want to be open and receptive, but in a conscious way, right? Not necessarily just unconsciously being a receptacle for everything on the internet, meaning like we're just scrolling or we're listening to other people's content. We want to actually be in our own energy, in connection with our spirit. And yeah, we want to slow down. We want to receive. We want to listen. And not listen in a sense of straining, but listening, it's more of a frequency of, once again, openness, but also curiosity, just availability, right? Just making ourselves available for things to come through. It's like, and I am so guilty of this, by the way, we fill ourselves with so much that we're doing, so much that we're consuming constantly, right? And just filling. And I mean, another piece is we're not necessarily releasing, right? But we're not creating space for more to come in that is actually in alignment. So probably first I should have said, like, creating space is also about letting things go. It's like, what's not working? Can you get into truth about that? Can you release that? What is extra? What is weighing? What is, kind of like clutter, right? So create space, whatever that means to you. Make space for yourself to just be in a receptive mode. Number two, I would say practice surrender, but that is just a word and it's not something that a lot of people have a lot of access to in their bodies. I believe I have more access to it than most. I actually have the channel of surrender in human design fully defined. And it's been a theme that it's really worked me throughout my life. I did a podcast about my sobriety journey. That's been a place that I've been brought to many times, but it happens often in layers, right? And there are different opportunities to practice surrender and to learn what that means at a deeper level. It's not just giving up. It's not futility. But instead of focusing more towards surrender here, I want to focus towards actually unhooking from the control patterns that prevent us from surrender, right? And the first step to this is actually just noticing where, like, you don't feel safe unless you have full control. And it makes perfect sense if that's there for you. You guys know I'm a survivor of pretty profound childhood trauma. If you are as well, or even if you just are a human being who has lived through any sort of trauma, which is all of us. You're living through kind of this whole societal thing right now that we've created, which is really a quite traumatic experience to be in, right? You may not feel safe. And so in the absence of safety, or in the absence of connection, in the absence of trust, when we don't have access to these energetics, we will control. And this is one of the biggest blocks that I have personally had as a spiritual entrepreneur, and that I see with a lot of entrepreneurs. It can be sneaky, right? It can be sneaky because it can masquerade as empowerment. Even in the manifestation circles, sometimes it's like, well, I'm just going to decide that this is what's going to happen, and this is what's going to happen, and I will it to happen. I mean, that's really cool, but are you trying to make that happen to the exclusion of what the energy itself wants to happen, to the exclusion of what your highest self wants to happen? Are you trying to direct the flow of a rushing river and push it in the opposite direction? Because that shit ain't gonna work. It's just not. And one thing that I've learned is that you actually have to be available for things to fail. A lot of people don't want to hear that, and they don't like that. But it's a truth. Failure is just redirection, right? It's opportunities to learn, to track back, to see what was off, right? Whenever I launch something, I am consciously surrendered to any outcome of that thing. It's kind of like when you create art. Do you only create art, in a way where it's conditioned upon how it's received? Like, only if someone pays $100,000 for this painting will I create this painting? Or are you creating the art through your body because you fucking can't not? Because that's what the energy wants to do. That's what your soul wants to do. There is a surrender in that, in even bringing that through, right? So it's like, where are the places that you are trying to control? This could show up in really small ways, clinging to things that might actually be outdated, micromanaging, right? I want you to really sit with where this comes up for you and also where it comes from, because there's a fear behind that. And this is I could go on a whole rant about this. This would be really long if I went entirely in this direction. But, this is essentially like the poison that has been kind of injected into our planet. And it's been rampant and is still rampant. Is like really the underlying energetic is fear. It's fear. But over top of that are all of these desperate attempts to control. This is the masculine paradigm, I should say the distorted masculine paradigm, that leaks into many of our businesses. So what I want you to do is get into relationship with the places where you feel you need to control. There will be a tightness, right? There will be a gripping. There will be a rigidity. There will be an inflexibility. It might feel more like a no in your body than a yes in your body, in a way that feels tight and resistant versus a no that's just like solid and sovereign and whole and holy. No's are great, right? But this is a particular flavor. And then you get to sit with, what am I scared of? A lot of the time, there's going to be inner children here. I think all the men who run the world are really just inner children who, they're just children who grew up and never actually developed and are just fucking terrified, right? And just haven't had their needs met. And it's the same for all of us. So, inner child work, nervous system regulation work, There are a number of different avenues. I would suggest that you work with someone who can help you move through these layers so that you can surrender some of that control. It's really important for feminine business and for what I'm about to say next, right? Because the third thing I wanted to mention is that you have to become willing for the cycles in your business and the pace in your business to operate at its pace, its natural organic pace, and not at the pace that your mind believes it should be operating in. I'm one of those people, I can be very consistent, and that's something that's in my code. That's something that's in my design really strongly. I don't do that in a robotic way. That's really natural for me to show up and be consistent in a lot of regards. But at the same time, there are seasons where not a lot is coming through me. There are seasons when it is time to reevaluate things. It is time to let go of things. It is time to be still and assess things. It is time to invest more in inner work. These are the places where actually the momentum can start to build from. But if we don't allow ourselves the space for that, and from a business perspective, you want to make sure that you're saving for these times, okay? It's like, in my opinion, that you have, I don't know what your opinions are on savings, but that you have enough kind of foundational resources, that you have things to support you so that you're not totally in the red when you're in these types of seasons. But it's going to be a part of it. We cannot just keep pushing forward in a linear upward motion forever and ever and ever and always. Like, the idea that business should be like that is absolutely insane to me as a feminine being. My body doesn't operate that way. Nature doesn't operate that way. The planet doesn't operate that way. Energetic cycles don't operate that way. It's out of alignment with truth. And yet, our society tells us that this is the way we should be operating. We should have no changes day to day, and we should always and only be producing more and more and more, up and up and up, right? And even if you just had like a corporate job, like, you should get up Monday through Friday and you should basically feel the same each day and be able to just drink your cup of coffee, get to work, do your work, come home, same level of productivity the next day, same after that, the next month, the next year. Do you see the fucking insanity of that? If you don't, you might not have a very well integrated feminine. It's absolutely insane. That's not based on any kind of truth, right? So there will be those seasons. There also may be seasons where the momentum is like you wouldn't believe. And it takes off in ways where actually there might be more required of you in seasons than your mind or your ego is really comfortable with, right? Because the energy is guiding you to, like, actually create more and receive more. And it might feel like, whoa, this is a really intense pace of forward movement. But once again, this is us trying to control because we don't feel safe, because we're actually not trusting the feminine, because the feminine is the cycles. I'll tell you that the longer that you observe patterns and the longer that you do this, like I said, I can't remember if I mentioned this, I've been in business since 2015. I think I did say this. So it's been a while now, right? Like 9 years. I've observed this again and again and again and again. The longer that you stick around and you observe this and you begin to participate in it, you start to trust it more. You know that just because there's a down season or there's a season where it's slow and the pace that's required is very, very slow, that does not mean that it won't be that way, that or that it will be that way forever, right? You get to follow the true pace of your business. Um, okay, so the next point would be connect with the consciousness of your business and get into a relationship with it. How do you do this? Well, I recommend getting into a very relaxed and open state of receptivity, however you know for yourself that you can get there, right? That could be meditation. For some people, it will be maybe meditation where like you're lying in stillness or sitting in stillness. For others, it might be more like going on a walk in nature. It's okay. If you're a super feminine being, you might be called to be in movement a lot, actually. You know, some people say that stillness is feminine. It's actually not. Stillness is masculine. The feminine, even in stillness, even when you're in stillness, the energy is undulating, pulsing. It's actually never still. Never, right? Even when it appears still. And so you can go on a walk, you can, get into a meditative state, however works best for you. And you're simply going to connect to your own heart, connect in with the root and into the planet, connect up with your higher self, and ask for the consciousness of your business to come towards you. Now, I recommend for the first connection that you don't set like an agenda to get a whole lot of answers, or to like, it's because it's like we're not just here to like mine the answers that our mind needs, and there's this reaching energetic that can happen there that's not so helpful. So instead, you're just going to spend some time being open and seeing and feeling how this consciousness wants to connect with you. You might get colors, right? Sometimes these are actually your brand colors, and your brand colors are not always the colors that most accurately express you. They might be the colors that most accurately express your business. Anyway, you might get colors. You might get sounds. You might get words. You might see someone who looks like some form of being, You might just get a feeling or a knowing, and you get to just be totally open to how that comes to you and invite a sharing. I recommend for the first several meetings actually just being really receptive to the energy. And later, once that relationship is kind of established, there can be more of a conversation where you're sharing and where you're receiving information. And it becomes a conversation, again, just like any relationship. When you are getting ready to launch something, what is this consciousness that is coming through me? You get to ask how things want to be priced, how they want to be structured. And once again, it's not that your human doesn't get to get on board with that or doesn't really need to have a say, because it does. But it's a collaboration. When you are working in the feminine, everything you create is a collaboration. So engage with it that way. Engage with it that way. Okay? Also, really think about and feel into, if you haven't already, or if you don't already have a practice of this, like the heart connection between you and the human beings that you're meant to serve. Now, this is different than creating like an ideal client avatar that kind of, a lot of business coaching programs will teach this. And it's very logical around like how you are supposed to, like how your gifts kind of match up, right? And what will make you money and who needs what you have to offer, right? And you can do it that way, but a way that I really like to do it, and that I feel like is really in alignment with my own feminine energy, is to connect in at a heart level with the human beings that I'm meant to reach, to actually listen to understand them, you know? And certainly, if you have people that you are already reaching, you know, if you have a product-based business, the people who bought your product, even, you know. But if you have a healing business or a coaching business or something like that, like, really make sure that you're prioritizing developing relationships that involve not just you broadcasting what you have to offer and why they should pay you. The broadcasting energetic is a masculine energetic, but you're also receiving them. You're connecting deeply with them. You're in relationship with them, right? I have built my business this way. Like, this has always been something that I've done inside of my business. And I believe it's actually like an area of genius for me in a lot of ways. The reason why I'm saying that is because I didn't used to think so. And I got so many reflections from people of like, Julia, how do you do this? Like, I don't understand. You know, all these people feel so connected to you. And I'm like, yeah, it's because they are. Because I show up and I'm available for that connection and I cultivate that connection, regardless of whether or not they're actually paying me. You know, these are human beings that I love and care for and that know me on some level and that I know on some level. And it's valuable to me. Those connections are so, so valuable to me on so many levels. And then, of course, also connecting to the human beings that are meant to come into your world later through the heart, right? If I didn't already mention this, you really must be doing some form of embodiment work, because it is way too easy to disconnect from our bodies. And the body is feminine, and the body is the vessel for creation, period. If we're not connected to the body, and if the body is not open for something to come through, what we're meant to create will not come through. When we create from the mind, we will often take ideas and different things from other places, from other people, right? Again, it's what we think it's supposed to be. When we create from the body is when we create the things that are uniquely and distinctly ours. Nothing can come through the body like that unless it's yours, unless it's yours to create, unless it's yours to teach. And you only want to be creating and teaching and building and doing things that are yours. People can feel when it is not yours, when it's not fully embodied, right? There are so many ways to do embodiment work. I am a huge fan of somatic integration practices like somatic experiencing, particularly if you're like me and you have had a lot of trauma in your life. This is deeply important. There are somatic integration healers and coaches. I just recommend that you try that out. Breath work, yoga, dance, right? I do all of these things, tantric practices. These are all things that can help your soul land more in your body. And it is a 100% essential component of feminine business. My embodiment work, I take so fucking serious. Anyone who knows me will tell you. I take that very seriously. You know, I take the other things I do in my business really seriously, but I know that without the embodiment work, nothing else works in my life. So prioritize that, okay? Now, the final, and this is a really, really important component, and the reason I'm saying it like that is because, as I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, there's been a lot of kind of pendulum swinging in the teaching about feminine business over the last several years. And now the pendulum is kind of swinging back the other direction. This is what I've seen. If you're totally outside of the industry, you'll be like, what the hell is she talking about? But if you're really deeply connected in the coaching industry and the healing industry, you will have seen this, right? There was a big pendulum swing towards, like, people were calling it like the soft girl era. And, there's no real action required of me. Like, it was actually, that was actually like that is more of a state of collapse. That is not feminine. That is collapse. That is, I am so fucking overworked from hustle and grind culture that I don't want to do anything anymore. So I will just fall apart, right? I'll be on the ground, just assuming that, everything I want will come meet me here without me having to get up and participate. We do need to participate. The feminine requires masculine support in order to blossom and thrive, period. I am very fortunate to have a lot of that in my life in the form of a partner. And I've said this many times, but I'm not sure that my business, in the way that I've done it, like, I don't know if that it would have taken off or sustained in the ways that it has if I didn't have that relationship with my partner. Mostly because not only has he held certain qualities in my life, but he's helped me to connect more deeply with my own inner divine masculine. And that's really the journey, actually. This is what a lot of feminine entrepreneurs don't want to hear. They don't want to hear that they have to connect with their inner masculine, because in their mind, it's like, well, I've already done that and it burnt me the fuck out. No, that was the distorted masculine. That was not the divine masculine who is in service to the feminine, who is so deeply devoted to the feminine. These are your boundaries, okay? You need boundaries in business. These are your standards. These are your requirements. This is, the systems that you have set up, right? This is the structure. This is the plan. This is the action. This is the schedule. We cannot throw this element away, but we also don't want to allow it to lead. The feminine experiences the opening. There is a cycle, right? Where there's the inception of a creative impulse, an energy, an idea. There is a consciousness that makes connection. And then there is a gestation process, right? It might take longer than your mind thinks it should. And this is why embodiment, again, is so important, because we have to begin to notice where our mind and our body are not in resonance, where the mind is leading everything and wanting to lead everything, and it's out of sync with the creative cycle. We get to honor that cycle. And when the birth is happening, when it's really ready for that to happen, the masculine is what comes in and says, okay, I know what to do. And it takes the action. It makes the sales page, it like, right? Or delegates to have these things done. It takes the action to make people aware that this is something that I'm offering. It takes the action to sell the offer. Right? It schedules the calls. All of that. but you have to make sure that those structures support your feminine rather than take from her. So this is like what I want to say here is this is going to be really unique to you. And this is why business coaches that give you templates that are one size fits all, I will never do that, and I don't subscribe to that. Because different structures work for different people. Different structures work for different people. Yes? Just because a booking software works for one person doesn't mean it's the right thing for you. Just because emails feel amazing for one person doesn't mean you have to fucking do emails. You get to feel into the energetic that's trying to be birthed. And you get to match it with the structure that is correct for it, with the structure that works for you, right? And then you get to protect that sacred space. You know, when I launched my program Conduit recently, I had actually several people reach out to me to, first of all, kind of compliment me on the energetics of this space, because this was a really powerful and clean energetic that I was in deep relationship with, that I was bringing through. But I also really set up my masculine protection around it. And like, you know, the action, everything was very aligned with what the energy needed, right? And the standards that I set, multiple people reached out to me about this, because I set standards on the sales page and in my stories saying like, this is who this is for. This is really who this is not for. Please actually don't come into this program. You know what I mean? If you don't meet these requirements. That is an example of how the masculine can support the blossoming of the feminine. The result, you know, the result of that was the biggest income month ever that I've ever had in my business. And I've had some pretty big ones. Right? So I'm not preaching about anything that I don't practice. Do I get out of balance here and there? Abso-fucking-lutely. I am absolutely not perfect. I have teachers that I'm learning from. I have processes that I go through. This is a practice for me. And that conditioning can run really deep, of that hyper masculine, that productivity, that I don't feel safe, so I need to control, that pushing, that forcing. And it's not just you. If you're struggling with that, it's not because you're so fucked up and broken. It's literally because our entire society is designed that way. And so it takes intention. It takes conscious intention to align with a different way of doing things. But the reward of doing that is really, really sweet. So I'm going to keep doing it. And I hope that you've gotten something that felt beneficial for you out of this podcast. And if these are things that you feel like you would benefit from support with, I want to encourage you to reach out to me about my one-to-one mentorship for spiritual entrepreneurs, because I can help to realign these places where these patterns are playing out, help you to connect with what the energy that you're really meant to bring through. I can help you to establish a relationship with the consciousness of your business, right? And help you to cultivate that relationship, and to set up structures in your business that are uniquely aligned for the way that you are coded, and that are in service to your inner vision, your inner knowing, the feminine, which is the energy within you, that creates, that knows, that emanates, that receives the divine inspiration. And I can help you activate your codes around receiving wealth and worthiness, which I feel like a lot of us need. So you can reach out to me about that if you're interested, or join the membership. I have multiple activations inside of the membership, including, at the time I'm recording this, I'm going to be doing this upcoming week an activation on Venus codes. So this is obviously very, very feminine, divine feminine, love, beauty, abundance. And I have activations on topics like receiving, sacred sexuality, what else? Financial abundance, and just abundance in general. There are so many different elements there to help you really connect to that feminine energy and get it into balance with the masculine energetic in ways that will deeply benefit your life and career. So, once again, thank you so much for joining me today, for listening to me speak, and I'm sending you so much love. Until next time.